Welcome to Behind the Scenes. I am your host, Hector Montalvo. This show is dedicated to asking tough questions for you, the viewers. We bring you their responses, and we let you decide. Joining us here today at our MCTV studios, we are honored to be sitting with Lawrence School Committee member, Mr. Mark Gray. Mr. Gray, welcome to the show.
Thank you.
Mr. Gray, has Lawrence submitted their bullying reports to the state?
I believe they did, and we were told that it was done on time.
It was done on time. Great. I know that there's been a lot of talks that a lot of schools have missed the deadline or have submitted some incomplete, so on. But Lawrence has another problem right now that they're facing is one of their schools are closed for what's been found to have mold.
Right.
Can you tell us about that?
Yeah, there was a mold infestation, and publicly it was stated by the superintendent, and the way that she had discussed it to us was that it appeared to be a minor issue inside the pipes. And of course, as the story progressed, it became into millions and millions of dollars worth of cleaning, repairs, and a lot of money, a lot of work, cleanup, hassles for the kids and the parents. And so it leads me to believe it wasn't the little tiny incident that she conveyed it out to be, which is a problem for me, because I think something of this magnitude with all the people that are working in the schools should have been something that was addressed. Someone should have smelt it, looked at it, seen it, and dealt with it before it came to this level that it's at now.
Now, you mentioned that the school superintendent said it was a small problem. Can you tell the viewers how long has the school been closed?
To be honest, I'm not too sure. It's been quite a few months.
So it's been a few months. Now,
Yeah.
is there money that Lawrence receives in order to solve this issue with the mold?
Well, what happens is the city of Lawrence receives, this year alone, approximately $29 million state and federal grant money. And what should be happening is we should be setting aside money for these things that are going to happen in the school system anyway. You know, repairs, maintenance, and upkeep. And I thought it really odd that we could not set aside any money, as we'd been told to set aside money for repairs, maintenance, and upkeep. So what I did is I went online and I downloaded some information from the ERA federal site, which specifically indicates that money can be used to repair, maintain, and upgrade buildings. And of course, Lawrence receives the lion's share of federal state grants. So we could have actually used money to maintain our boiler system, the pipes, the buildings. We could have dealt with this issue in a timely fashion, but we didn't, or the administration didn't, and now it's going to end up costing the schools and the city millions of dollars.
How much do you think, roughly?
I would say well over $2 million.
Really?
Yep.
Wow, and the mold is that bad. Now, I know that Mayor Antigua issued a gag order against all the employees, and I just want to remind the viewers that you are not an employee, you are a elected appointed official, so the gag order does not reflect you as well, correct?
Well, I guess technically or legally it doesn't, but I have to say that I wouldn't take any order or opinion from him anyway. I don't answer to him. I don't work for him. I don't. His opinion is his own. He has no more or less authority than I do on the school committee. The people I answer to are the people that I represent in my district. They're the ones that dictate what I do and don't do.
But he chairs the school committee, correct?
He does. And if you go back and research the laws on why a mayor sits on the school committee, you'll probably read that he is there so that the schools get the city services. And to more to date in the laws, to bring it up to date, he rules on matters of order, which like Robert's rules and setting the agenda, things of that nature. But the reason for having a mayor on was so that the city would be providing services to the school that they need so that the kids' education wouldn't come to a stop.
So that's his authority.
That's his authority. That's what he is supposed to be doing. But he has no more or no less authority than any other member on that school committee. He doesn't have the authority to dictate services. He can't. For instance, you've heard in the media that Lawrence IT department was running the city ID department. He has no authority to do that, but for some reason he is doing it. He doesn't have any authority to tell the superintendent who to hire and fire, but he's been doing it. He doesn't have the authority to do these things, no more than I do. It's just that typically the superintendent aligns themselves politically with the mayor, and that's the abuse of authority. But legally speaking, he doesn't have any authority to tell anyone in the school system what to do.
Now, you mentioned that there is money, state and federal money, grants that's available to fix the mold situation at the school. Where is this money going? Why isn't the school open yet?
Well, first it's, before the problem. The problem is that people are not maintaining the buildings. People are, I find it very hard to believe that $2 million in damages, no one smelt the problem, no one saw the problem. I know for a fact that pictures were taken that outline severe mold problems in these schools, and I hear about these issues all the time. So these things are being just ignored until they fester into something major, which ends up costing not Lawrence, but the taxpayers millions of dollars instead of fixing it beforehand. And like I said, I gave you a piece of paper there. These grants outline where that money can be spent, and this is one of the areas that Arrow money could have been spent. This whole thing could have been avoided from the get-go.
Now, you just mentioned not Lawrence, but the taxpayers of the Commonwealth. Why not Lawrence?
Well, Lawrence fails to contribute anything significant into the school system, and the state funds Lawrence education 100%. And just to give a little background on why that is, it's suggested or spoken that the people of Massachusetts feel that educating our young is such an important issue that they're willing to fund Lawrence 100%. And I'm sure there's calculations involved. Lawrence has a very low medium income, high unemployment, and things of that nature. So the Commonwealth has provided 100% of funding for those kids. And of course, yet my issue is that they remain at the bottom. So we're not spending that money wisely. We're not being accountable to the taxpayer. We're not giving them what they're paying for. And definitely the state should be stepping in after a decade of failure in Lawrence and saying, we give you 100%. What is the issue? And you need to do more. And unfortunately, the more money gets pumped into Lawrence, unless you fix the corruption and the political hacking going on and the alliance between the mayor and the superintendent, where that money goes, the kids are always on the short end of the stick because there's no one there to fight for them. So I do what I can for the taxpayer, but the state should really, after 10 years plus, step in and say, listen, we pay 100%, we expect a little bit more on the people's investment.
What do you think it's going to take in order to get Lawrence to contribute, like the rest of the communities, into their education, to the school education system?
Well, there is, there's a mathematical formula, and there's a formula for how they do it, and I can't really argue with that, and it's been upheld in court, so, you know, it's quite a battle to change that. But what needs to happen is the non-monetary things that you can do. The school system, the people that are getting paid, the administrators, they need to step up and they say, this is what we need from the parents, and we need to listen to the parents. There has to be a two-way street. Parents and the community need to elect, you know, proper officials. They just can't have these hacks walking into the job. There's a lot of different things that need to go on to do that. But definitely people need to step up and do what they can to make the school system better. And the biggest problem that the education system in Lawrence has right now is that the parents do not demand more. They need to demand it to the point where they go to their representative, the city council, the school committee, and they can say, we are going to start a movement to remove you from office unless you do this. From the mayor on down, our education system is the worst in Mass. We are going to do everything we can to get rid of you unless you do this and this.
And there is a process to do that. It's called the recall. And
there's a recall for the mayor, and my position comes up every 2 years. And we've had the city charter review, which happens every decade. And I haven't seen the changes on that, but I advocate for the removal of elected officials at the drop of a hat. I don't want to see them in there if they're employed by the city, if they're on another board, another commission, if they're going to get hired by the city after. I want a term of years which they cannot be employed by the city if they sit on an office. You know, I believe in getting rid of people at the drop of a hat when they're on your tax-paying dollar or they represent you. I really believe in that. But, you know, 2 years, get rid of them. If I don't represent the people, and I can honestly say I don't believe there's one person I haven't represented in my district. Anyone that comes to me, they get represented. I belong to both neighborhood groups. I have 2 emails. I am available as much as I can possibly be. I go outside my district. But if you're not being represented, you really have to get rid of the people.
Now, I know that in one of our previous shows we had you on, and you mentioned that the children weren't coming home with school books.
Yep.
Has that changed?
It hasn't. And this is one of the problems where parents, I just talked to a parent the other day, and the parents are drawing a very similar and same conclusion. The books are not explaining, like, let's say, 4th grade math. The examples given in this book, if the student does it, they don't get the proper answer. And math is a very specific thing. So when you have a group of parents telling the administration what is going on here, you're actually teaching the kids how to do this wrong. This book actually teaches the wrong way of doing it. And it confuses the kid. You know, and the parent isn't going to relearn 12 years of education so that they can teach their kid the way this school wants them to teach the kids. And the administration just doesn't listen. They won't replace the curriculum. They won't get better curriculum. They don't believe it's the school committee's responsibility. Although I would argue that after failing these kids for over a decade, they've made it the committee's responsibility. And I definitely think curriculum should be replaced. And there's no reason throughout the entire United States you can't pick one publisher or a curriculum that works or is an outstanding curriculum choice and then bring it into a school system like Lawrence, which has the money to buy the curriculum. So there's really no excuse for the administration except that they don't want to do it.
Now, I know that there is grants available out there to improving the special education program. Is that something that Lawrence is doing as well? It's trying to improve their special education?
I believe that Chapter 70 general education money is going to stay the same the next year, but I believe special education is going to get streamlined. Unfortunately, our administration doesn't let us even look at what's going on with special education. We don't get to look at the kids. We don't get to see why millions of dollars are being spent for any individual, even if it's a worthwhile cause. So we're really kept in the dark, and they really refuse to divulge any type of information on that, which is why I always vote no on the monetary issues, because if there's no accountability, there should be no money. Because it's not their money, it's not my money, it's the taxpayers' money, and they always have a right to know where the money is going. There's so many things that can be done with special ed. It can be brought into the city. They can use the old high school instead of sending people to Cape Cod or Chelmsford or wherever. You can alleviate then millions of dollars, and I mean literally millions of dollars in busing, special busing, staff. You can eliminate that, because where you're spending so much of that special ed money, actually bring it into a building that you already have inside the city, and then bring in other towns' business for special ed into your city. So there are ways to streamline that. It's just that our administration is business as usual, and they don't have the leadership skills to think beyond what they've done for 10, 20, 30 years.
Now, we know that most of the federal funding that come into these schools, they have to be, there's guidelines that they have to go through. You mentioned that the administration does not allow you to see that. If the administration is refusing to allow you to see the documents that you're entitled to, is there any recourse that the people can take to ask the federal government to stop the funding?
Yeah, that's when it goes to a higher level. That's when we start going to state reps, state senators, things of that nature. I've written 3 letters to Senator Brown and Senator Kerry, because I want to be part of a discussion between the federal level and local level education, and what they need to do to, at their level, that can have a direct impact on education. And I think one of the ways that our senators can have an impact is to say, listen, federal level Department of Education, if you refuse to oversee these states, if you refuse to act on complaints regarding the money and where the money is going and how it's being spent, then we will slash your funding by 50%. And if you still are out of compliance, we will slash it another 50%. And I don't know if you've ever done it, but I've gone online and I've looked at the directory for the U.S. Department of Education, and it is literally thousands and thousands of names of people. Thousands. So all this money, all these tax dollars are going to people who will not lift a finger, no matter how bad and how severe the education system is in any particular district, school, or state. Absolutely refuse to get involved in it.
Well, what do you hope to accomplish in reaching with your federal legislators such as John Kerry, Scott Brown?
I think when you start talking about slashing people's jobs and departments by 50%, and you lay it on the line saying you get involved because you're being paid to, or you don't have a job, people will start saying, you know what, I think we're going to look into that school or district that has been consistently last for 20 years, and maybe we should step in and do something about it.
I tell you, it's going to take a lot of people to work on these situations that are affecting the taxpayers, the no accountability, no open and transparent or anything like that within the administrations. As far as the school, how is the school superintendent working with the school committee members to achieve the education for the children?
Well, I don't see the superintendent doing anything to improve education. The last 2 superintendents have pretty much just done whatever they could to provide excuses for poor performance and done nothing to make any significant changes. In fact, one of the things that I brought you was an education plan. Every district is required to submit to the state a district educational plan, and every school is required to submit one to the school committee. And we really don't get to see those plans, although we know that they're supposed to have those plans. And the state really doesn't take a look at them, but if you read through them, you will see that they are extremely ambiguous. Their goals are written in such a manner that you can never hold them accountable for anything. And I have a real issue with that. When you hand them a half-inch thick manual to the school committee filled with basically garbage that doesn't hold anyone accountable for anything. They might say things like, our goal is to increase math by 10%. Well, what happens when that doesn't happen? Nothing happens. They just rewrite it into next year's education plan, and it's an ongoing thing. And I believe one of the school committees commented they took last year's educational plan, this year's educational plan, looked at it, and it was basically the same thing with a few sentences here and there rewritten. So they're not doing anything to improve education. They spend more time making excuses of why they haven't been educating. And a lot of people, this is significant because a lot of people in some of the leadership in Lawrence believe that this is intentional, because the worse that Lawrence does, the more revenue it will bring in through the state and federal government, because habitually government throws money at the problem trying to beat it down with money. So if education is always bad in Lawrence, the money keeps flowing into Lawrence. And then the political machine in Lawrence can wean off that money one way or the other and profit by it.
How many people, or what would it take to change that type of attitude in Lawrence?
4 members on the school committee with the integrity and the backbone to change the system.
So only 4 people.
The Achilles heel in the entire education system is that school committee. 4 members on that school committee grew a backbone and had the guts to do what needs to be done. They would change Lawrence.
They would.
Yes.
Well, it's going to be amazing to see how it's definitely going to end up playing out. Now, is there an election coming up for a school committee?
This November.
This November. You're planning on running again? Or?
I plan on running again.
And you don't know of anybody else that may have thrown their names and...
Well, I hear that there will be people running. There's people that are going to be running against me. And this is the way it is, especially with our mayor that we have. He floods the field with people that he wants. And you know he will do it on the school committee, because the school budget is like 2/3 of the money that comes into the city of Lawrence. So they are going to try desperately to control the school committee. And that's what the past administrations have done. They flood the school committee with their own people, and they just become a bunch of rubber stamps that pass anything without any accountability whatsoever.
Do you see the mayor being a one-term mayor?
Oh, I think it'll be difficult. I think if the right people step up to the bat and the infighting and bickering is kept to a minimum, and they get someone that everyone can have faith in, it would be possible.
It just goes to show you how government actually works. You know, it's about the money, it's about who you know, and what you can get accomplished. It's not really in the best interest of the constituents that they seek to represent, and hopefully that will change. What do you think needs to be done to change the way politics operates in Lawrence?
People have to start acting. It's, you know, from the day that this country was created, and every major thing that's done to change this country, it has been on the back of a rebellion or a revolt. People have to own this country. They have to take it back from where it was taking it from them, the government, and they have to pocket it and own it.
Now, is the Lawrence School Committee members open to discuss these particular issues with the media, or they tend to do like Mayor Antigua will do and ignore the media in regards to these issues?
Well, I guess the leadership that I learned is a little different from whatever leadership the mayor's coming from. I like open communication. I like to share, as you can see, I share documents with everyone. I share information with everyone. I talk to anybody. I believe that the intelligence of a collective can come up with better, well, it's a leadership course that's taught throughout the United States. Collective intelligence produces better direction and results than just individuals with their own agenda.
Well, we have about a minute left. If any constituents from the Lawrence area wanted to reach out to you, get information from you, or just to discuss any particular issues that their children may be having, how do they do it? How do they get a hold of you?
Well, they can email me. I have two, actually. I have school committee with 3 E's at yahoo.com, also ghostapollo@yahoo.com. They can call my house. They can contact, they don't even have to contact me personally. They can go to the Mount Vernon Neighborhood Association. They can go to the Sacred Heart Association. They can leave messages at the school. Anything. You don't even have to contact me directly to get a hold of me. You can just put the word out in the street, and I'll hunt you down.
Well, thank you for being open and transparent, and we wish you luck in this upcoming election in November. You've been watching Behind the Scenes. I am your host, Hector Montalvo. I want to thank the crew on MCTV, the staff at MCTV, and thank you at home for watching. Join us next time as we go behind the scenes to ask the tough questions, bring you their responses. We let you decide. Thank you for watching.